702. That's the total number of dungeon and raid bosses in WoW's cast since 2004, and yet only a few will remain in players' memories forever. And today I'm about to tell you about an absolutely cursed boss, engraved in World of Warcraft history as the boss no one could kill.
Death is close.
Okay, on January 23rd, 2006, 19 days after the release of patch 1.9, the first blows on the Beatles' gong, signaling the opening of the gates to the temple of Ankiraj. As usual, the world's best guilds make their way quickly through the temple, overcoming one boss after another. And it was the Vodka guild that dealt the fatal blow to the twin emperors on January 29, 2006. That's just 6 days after the gates were opened, giving them access to the great hall in which Cthulhu, the Broken One, the ancient god of chaos and madness, sits.
You are already dead.
Let me explain Cthulhu's strategy. The boss has some really interesting mechanics for its time. The 40 players must divide themselves into 8 groups of 5, all around the eye, making sure to be 10 meters apart. Throughout the fight, the boss pops tentacles all over the room, which must be killed quickly, and channels 2 rays. The green beam works like a chain of lightning bolts, forcing players to move away from each other, and the red beam is a 180-degree beam, forcing each player to move to the exact opposite of their current position, while of course maintaining the 10-meter gap. Opposite them, the tentacles in the room will pop more often and do more damage, while Cthulhu will swallow a number of players who will find themselves trapped in his stomach, where they'll have to kill 2 large tentacles before climbing back into the room to continue the fight. On paper, an interesting and rather technical fight for its time, but relatively easy to master for the world's best players. And yet, day after day, nothing and no one could defeat the insatiable eye of Cthulhu. The boss was not only too powerful but also, and above all, excessively buggy. Tentacles that land in unlikely places that players can't reach. The boss literally grabbing all healers in his stomach, leading to an automatic wipe. The green ray which sometimes targets people inside the stomach who obviously don't have room to move 10 meters away from each other. The list of bugs is long, but despite the many complaints on the forums, the developers are sticking to their guns. The boss can fall. Players just have to get better, and while some guilds simply decide to stop smashing their skulls against this impenetrable wall, others redouble their creativity. Some players discover that an otherwise hard-to-get mascot, the disgusting mascot, the disgusting ooze, who can be summoned and permanently sent back to completely nullify the debuff players receive when they're in Cthulhu's stomach. Many of the world's top guilds that are supposed to be racing against each other, have even decided to pool their resources and share their strategies and different ways of handling combat. But neither that nor the stuff that players stuff over the weeks will be enough. I'd love to be able to tell you that the ingenuity and doggedness of the players has finally paid off. That would be a great story. But no, Cthulhu is still standing. The period is totally insane. This boss is a real god. The guilds have been breaking against him for 79 days now, when a new post appeared on the WoW forums. A man called Gurgthok, leader of the elitist Jerks Guild, explains in a rather precise post that, given the DPSs that a group of 40 players can bring, each with the best possible equipment and each playing his class to perfection, Cthulhu, in his current state, could not die. The fight is mathematically impossible. The author of this post, who was just a player at that time, joined the Blizzard staff as a game designer in 2008 and is now the game director we know as Ion Hazikostas. He concluded his post with, "I wish someone could prove me wrong." But no one could, because exactly 7 days later, on April 25, 2006, a hotfix was finally deployed, correcting the boss's many bugs and balancing his damage correctly. Just a few hours after this patch was deployed, the Nihilum guild defeated Cthulhu. This boss, in its pre-nerf version, held out against players for 86 days, and the worst thing about it is that, despite its incredible history, it's not even the longest lasting boss in World of Warcraft history. In the same raid, there was a giant earthworm named Uro, an optional boss of Ankiraj, which was just as buggy and unbalanced as Cthulhu. So players totally ignored it, preferring to concentrate, even if it meant wasting time, on the end boss, while waiting for the holy balancing patch that would eventually fix Uro. Of course, just a few hours after Cthulhu was knocked to the ground, Uro also fell. This story raises a lot of questions. Is Cthulhu pre-nerf really impossible? Most people who have spent weeks smashing keyboards on it will tell you that it is, but many others claim that it isn't and assert, and rightly so, that gamers are so much stronger today and that the tools at our disposal, the add-ons, the PCs and even the connection are so much better that Cthulhu pre-nerf would just be obliterated. Quite frankly, I don't know. Many players in the Classic community actively asked Blizzard to let them try Cthulhu pre-nerf on the beta before the release of AQ4 on Classic. Unfortunately, it was refused. The boss, of course, came out in his post-nerf version and got run over, so the mystery remains. We'll never know whether the ancient god of chaos and madness in his pre-nerf version could have been killed. This battle is no less legendary and will remain in the memory of many players as the unattainable boss in the history of World of Warcraft. I really wanted to tell you the story of this boss. Today, Blizzard is much more reactive on balancing and progress, and it's totally unimaginable to let players spend 86 days on a boss. And vanilla was a very different era. I did Cthulhu last year on WoW Classic and found the fight fun. But I have to admit that back in the vanilla days, I'd certainly have done anything. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed the video. You know what you can do to support me. Don't hesitate to give me feedback. It's Buddy Bird here. Alright, see you soon guys.